Hello to everyone. We are on January 28th, 2024, and we have with us Rick Juars. I'm not saying Rick from Romania, I'm saying Rick from Gpms.org, from all the world, from the planet. And also we have Frank and Serg from Canada. I believe that Serg is still in Canada, but he traveled. And we have a lot of news today to speak. So it is also about the fake immigration when practically the people started to be awake that there are 2 billion in the world at this time, that they are people with no soul and also darkness. And I was asking Rick, what will happen with them? So what it is about inside of their body and how the ascension may fix us and how the light, I'm not saying when, because I know that we just expand every single day and we are in fourth dimension right now, but just to have a better understanding, because after that I will explain also what really happens in Romania and around. Thank you. So Rick, please. If you want to, you are mute.
Yes, how's my internet? If you can't hear me, let me know because I had to switch to another internet.
Yeah, sure. Yes,
All right,
I can
I'll
hear
put
you.
my video out just to ensure the strength of it. You know, on the planet, if you will, there's about 2 billion that are not human souls going forward. But our focus is not with those 2 billion, if you will. Our focus is with 6 billion human souls, which is more, than enough of the majority. And just typically what Beatrice is speaking about in their DNA, these are uh, constructs, if you will, that were grown in labs, clones, and what have you. But because of that, they do not have the spark, if you will. They do not have the soul and the ability to evolve the DNA. So just to give a quick crash course in it, what it means is that for the 6 billion human souls, their internal anatomy has been changing to crystalline over the course, more notably the last several years, but since 2012, when there's been, yes, divine intervention upon the planet to evolve humanity and the human soul experience forward. So again, just to, keep this simple, um, with gpms.world, it focuses on the majority. It doesn't focus on getting justice and accountability with the darkness because they cannot go forward for what they are. They cannot evolve into the new reality because all creation is energy, and the new reality we are creating is one of joy, harmony, and peace. And the darkness and the clones, if you will, and the constructs, they cannot exist in a higher vibration reality. And this is also the scientists and doctors, if they're to give you the truth, but I also believe there's some papers that you can access that was written by some doctors or scientists that says about the crystal component in the plasma of the blood that they began to find in the children, but also another unknown component that is shown up. So it's already documented upon the planet with the crystalline thing that we speak about is not a fantasy. It's very real, and it is occurring, and it is scientifically documented to some degree. So you know, having said this, with the darkness, they've also been playing with genetics, and one of the reasons they take blood from every child is because to get this crystalline blood that they play with in their genetics, but in reality they can do nothing with it because the overall soul is what activates that blood. So once it's out of a child, if you will, it's not activated and it cannot evolve because it's also the soul connection that evolves the the humanoid vessel, if you will. So just to, you know, keep that simple. But again, our focus is on getting the 6 billion souls in alignment with going forward. But in reality, we don't even need that many to advance this forward because as you raise the frequency, upon the planet by the joy and the hope, what it does is that the darkness cannot reside in such a frequency. So what occurs divinely is that we don't need to deal with the darkness. They are taken care of through a divine process that we don't need to put our fingers to it. We don't need to have any courts. We don't have to bring any of them to justice for the simple reason they cannot.
Oh, your internet's crapping out.
Yes, this is also my internet here in Alberta, showing internet. I will expose them, and I told them already. So they put me all the time to switch on 5G. If I'm not switching on 5G, exactly, I'm lost. Yes, Rick, so we cannot hear you.
Yeah. Where did I cut out at, Frank?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but we
What
do
was
not
the
need to
last you
fight.
heard, Frank?
We do not need to fight with the darkness because practically the darkness, it is already on divine justice. And
That's the
when we
wrong
rise,
thing. Yes, it's the wrong thing.
When we rise the vibration there.
Yeah, it's the worst thing anyone can do because what you're doing is you're fighting and you're being aggressive, and aggressive generates fear out into the reality, which is actually a weight, and it lowers the vibration. So anyone that's fighting, you know, to any extent that's getting aggressive, it's actually hindering the process of going forward. For when everyone unites and gives the complete joy of GPMS, we raise in vibration very quickly, and many of the darkness fall away. They cannot come forward. Now, having said this, I was speaking today with a lady from Sibiu, Romania, and with the protests that they had here, you know, perhaps a week or so ago, she's an empath, and she is on the ascension journey, if you will. But one of her reports was that with the people in the street and their noise, their vocalization, that she could not be around that energy that was being generated from them. So actually, she separated herself, you know, from the blocks or whatever they were on in the demonstrations, in the protests, for the simple reason the energy is repulsive to us because it is a fear, aggression energy. It is fighting, and it's not what we are doing. We are peacefully uniting to advance out of it. However, having said this, it is essential for some of them as part of their process to become, let's say, a bit aggressive, to confront the old, to finally come to the conclusion that it's no use, that they're wasting their time. And, you know, over the course of millennium, nothing has ever come to a full fruition, if you will, by any governments in the past or what have you. They'll throw a bone, if you will, to the dog to keep them quiet, but still maintaining that control that they had in the past. Beatrice, if I may, very quickly with Serbia, Beatrice and I are working on this, but we don't have enough information yet to give a good, more inclusive report onto this. But just skipping on the surface of it, what I wish to say, between 2016 and 2019, Serbia played a very important role leading up to the birth of GPMS, and they played an instrumental and fundamental role in being the testimony, if you will, why no individual nation could do anything worldwide and why it had to be universally done like GPMS is doing. And to keep it simply without putting any speculation in here, just the facts, if you will, and we will have more later. So to my knowledge, into the facts that I know, that the Serbian people, because I was in contact with certain ones at that time, close to the leaders, perhaps if not the leader. So to keep it simple, within their country's constitution, there was the provision that if the government became tyrannical, that the people had certain provisions that they could follow to replace the government to do what is right. So to keep a long story short, they did all this peacefully and properly. And when they got to the end result, to my knowledge, they were the people supported the People's Party rather than the present government. But then what occurred to get worldwide acknowledgement, they only got acknowledgement from one other country worldwide that recognized the people as being the power inside of that nation rather than the existing corrupt government. I don't know yet the name of that country. I have suspected that it was the US at that time because there was ties to Trump and what was going on to some degree. But I cannot validate or accreditate that yet. We will know more. But the important thing, is what occurred is that these leaders also where the people were not recognized as the leaders of the Serbian country by the outside nations, then their movement was squashed and they were subdued and things remained the same and the people were controlled. So it's Serbia. The Serbia incident is very important at showing the world why no individual nation can do it, because simply there is a huge crime syndicate of the government around the
We're losing you.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, can hear you now.
Yeah, what was the last you heard?
Like about without the support of more than one country, that squashes the movement. It was an example.
Yeah. So again, just to pick up there, I believe, yeah, you heard enough to get the point, to get the story of why that, yeah. So this is why, it is done universally, and it is truly the only way to do it. Yeah. Thanks.
Yes, so what I saw in Romania through the video, the people were able also to get in Bucharest despite many problems with the police. And practically the police, it's not I'm not saying 100%, only few of them, they understand the movement for the liberty, but practically the majority of them, they do not understand that, and they are coming on the people way, then there the friction starts. So anyway, I saw a couple of videos and I saw this interaction. This is more like a show because the police will do not win on this situation because there are probably, I do not know, but I believe that they are already million on the street at this time, that not all of them in Bucharest, but it is a strong number. And they have also the good military with them, but practically they direct to the point to shoot down the government, the actual government. So this is the movement, the real movement in Romania. And my question was a little bit, because I saw also it is negative, but it's not in all area. So in some video, I can see the people that they are saying right now they are more united as never. Because some days in cold during the winter time made them to be possible to share the food and to care about each other, and they share that, and they also dance to unite everyone and for the peace and everything. So this is very positive too. This is coming in a very positive way. They are not aware because of these humans with no soul, these hybrids. And this is the message that I send all the time to them at this time, because they may be thinking that they may fight with Ukraine or with Hungary or people. And this is not true. My message was sent that the problem is the top head of Hungary, and they were played inside of Romania for the land problem, just to have problem to divide them. And what happened in Ukraine is something else that we know. And Romania has also problem underground. So they need to understand these hybrids right now. And practically they cannot have a complete justice as they want. Exactly what Eric explained earlier. Because they are looking for accountability, and they are saying, okay, this one right now that they are on political position and they allow the vaccination program and everything to happen to them, then they have to pass away. But as Rick said in the past, we have 47,000 politicians in the world. So even that these 47, or I do not know how many from them they will pass away, the earth has still no solution, and the complete accountability is still not done. And I told them yesterday, it was a video in Romania, and I told them the problem it's bigger, because you have the 1 million practically the darkness already worldwide. You have the 10% or 50% of the people that supports them worldwide. And also you have another 25% that practically they have no soul. So in this battle, this is the real war. The real war is between good and evil. And inside of this war, you want to come with accountability only for few, but practically if we let to your accountability everything to happen, the darkness can regenerate. So the true non-regeneration of the darkness, it is Gpms.org. And I try to explain them, because already I had 2 questions that were coming in the last day. One from Romania, here in Alberta. It was somebody that asked me, this is the divine plan for the human race, and said, what it is your divine, so what it is the name of divine. And from Romania, the people that they understand that Orthodox, the actual Orthodox Church is not in the good direction. I'm not speaking about all the priests. I'm speaking about the institution, because the religion is under the institution, and they allow the vaccination for the people, and they are keeping also the priests do not speak out. So it is a lot there. So I'm not speaking here about the priest. I'm speaking about what the government practically is doing with them. And practically, their question for the Romania that they understand right now that what happened with the Orthodox Church and everything. In Romania, they are asking also what it is the divinity, what it is our reference to the divinity. My answer to them was clear enough that it's for sure a divinity that exists, because we have this spark of divinity. It is inside of us, and we have the direct relationship with the divinity and everything, and it's practically also us. And another way for all the people to understand Gpms.org, it's not bringing forward one religion or another one, and we have unlabeled, unlimited rights, and inside of that, one of the right, it is the freedom of belief. So when we have the freedom of belief, it is not about that if you do not believe on what I believe, you cannot come in Gpms.org. It is exactly the contrary. Yes, Rick.
Thank you. What I wish to say is divinity is prime creator, is God, and this is what it is. And having said this, one of the reasons the churches have been corrupted. So instead of the churches being the messengers of God, because they were controlled by the church or by the states, by the governments, by the capitalistic system. So instead of these priests, if you will, being the prophets of God, it's not being done that way. What is actually occurring, the prophets and prophetesses, the sibyls of God, are among the common people. And it's designed to be done this way because, again, when you look into all of the churches, for the most part worldwide, they have been compromised, where they are not taking the orders from God. They are actually taking the words and the orders from their individual states, and they are being suppressed and controlled, as Beatrice said, in supporting vaccinations and other protocols of the state, while they remain silent by the state laws. For example, in the US, there is not the freedom of speech for any priest or one in the church. They cannot, by law, speak in the past about politics. So they were controlled by the state rather than God. So these ones have been compromised, and divinely it has been overridden by God. And what has to occur is, as Beatrice said, the genuine priests, they have to choose and they have to become aligned with God. And through that is the repenting process. They come to the realization of how they were controlled by the actual evil itself, which is the capitalistic system, which is inflicting great harm upon the planet. And this is not godlike, and it's not in alignment with God for any of these, especially the churches, to being controlled by such a system that is killing 8,500 children daily due to starvation and about 30,000 people daily because of hunger around the world. And for the church, they must support God, they must support GPMS.world to end all of this suffering worldwide, because the divine prime creator solution is upon the planet now, and it is GPMS.world, and it cannot be ignored, and especially by any genuine clergy of the church, if you will. And again, with this, um, well, I won't go further in there. I'm just making this clear and stating it because it's divinely assured and taken care of. All I'm doing is offering a little bit more explanation to the churches themselves, letting them know they must make their own choices. It's not up to us, to GPMS, to judge nor choose anyone, but we are obligated to inform them, and we are divinely obligated, and this is what we do. The end choice becomes theirs alone, so we do not judge them, if you will, but we must evaluate and state the truth of what is happening. So with that, what I love just before the meeting is that everyone that's working so hard now, and I know Serge driving the truck, Frank at the construction work, with the GPMS world, in the beginning, we'll only need to work about 12 weeks out of the year. So about 1 day a month and then 3 weeks off, if you will, to put in about 10 hours a week. But if you want to put in 40 hours a week, if you will, you work 1 week a month. So instead of what you had to, but really it's going to be a lot less than that, because see, not only are you unlocking the huge workforce of the planet, where the actual biggest workforce is over 2 billion, is employed in the financial sector, in the markets, in the banking system, which you no longer need to any degree. You perhaps only need about 1,000 out of that whole financial sector of 1 decimal, perhaps 4 billion that are in that. And also with the militaries and the governments worldwide, you no longer need all these bureaucracies. So you have all of these that are able to assist with the essential goods and services. But not only that, what you need to realize is that, like in countries in Africa, you will, by all of these people given resources, to dig wells, to cultivate, also does it take off of the rest of the world with the amount of sweat equity, or let's say the amount of labor to produce more crops. So what you actually have is the amount of farming that is done now in certain regions that is even cut down, that you don't need as many to produce, because you actually have more people that are producing more than enough food upon the planet. And right now, there is more than enough food is produced upon the planet. What's occurring is, with the waste of the food in the rich countries, if you will, could also feed, and what spoils. There's a lot of food that spoils, that never gets to market, if you will. But having said this, the planet has the capacity right now to very quickly, with unlimited funding, to produce perhaps 100 times more the amount of food. And I'll say unlimited, it can produce thousands of times more the amount of food needed for the entire population. And the reason it can do this is very simply by unlocking the unlimited resources of money at drilling wells everywhere where you need to, in the deserts, there's water everywhere. Bring that to the surface. And, there's so many things that make this happen. So in reality, food is not a problem upon the planet. It's the capitalistic system and the way that it operated and functioned. So, lots of good things that uh, are coming here, and there is no stopping it. And so I didn't set in on the Asian meeting today because we had a meeting, not a meeting. Yeah, you could say meeting someone new here where we were at, and that occurred at that time. But we had a great UK meeting several hours ago, and I set in on that, and I was able to, give some more numbers and some statistics. And the reason I do that is because the people that maybe are not right awake yet, they can identify with statistics that are put out there. And, one of the latest statistics I used, there's around 830 million each day that are hungry around the planet. And, and that's a substantial number, almost 10%. Well, over 10% of the planet is hungry each day, each individual. And with the orphans, 153 million orphans around the world. And to my knowledge, most of these children are on the streets, if you will. They're not even in orphanages. And when you look at the orphanages, because of the capitalistic system, and also how things become so much harder, where they rely on donations and charity, that is even becoming less and less. And, we're seeing this in Uganda with a GPMS, of what we're attempting to do there to get ones to stand up. But by doing this, I personally assisted with putting out a funding request to ask for this one orphanage. They only needed like about $1,000 or $1,100 to survive for 1 month with 40 children, and to pay their rent and their food is all they needed. So I did a fundraiser, and I and Renata and Wandera, we showed the children and validated it. And out of that, what was all they received was half of what they needed, like $600 or something in the beginning. That was the first one. We had to do another one because we didn't get enough in the first one, and we did finally got it. But I mean, when you look at this, how little that it costs to actually feed these children, like for a month, 40 children, and you see the cruel and sick system, how it has created this poverty. And when you look at then I wanted to jump, to the US last year. It spent $113 billion on the Ukraine war. Now, this is what I need to say: 113 billion, that the US got the money from somewhere. But here's what I need to say: the US is many trillions of dollars in debt. The US has no monetary surplus. So where did it come up with $113 billion? Well, where it come up with is because it creates money out of thin air. And again, this is what the real truth is with it. And, yes, we could go further. They were, let's say, money laundering and all of this, but it doesn't matter what they did with it. The facts show the truth here. If you have a country that is many $trillion in debt, has no surplus, and one's paying, let's say, heavy taxes and inflation rising, and with about 40 million in the US homeless, and many in big poverty,
Breaking up again there.
Yeah. So magically, you have a government that's able to fabricate out of thin air $113 billion. Now, if you go back to what I said to this one orphanage, that $1,000, dollars a month, and if you want to do a bunch of quick math, you could see really 100. So let's say the U.S., they created 113 billion. But how much could they create? Well, the truth is they can create it instantly and unlimitedly. And this is what GPMS knows, and this is what GPMS is doing, will do, and it's going to distribute the money equally. So some interesting telltale signs right in your face, and this is the truth. But further with the truth, it shows that there is an ill intent upon the planet, that there is an actual darkness. If they can come up with $113 billion for a war that's actually killing more people, couldn't they come up with $113 billion to save 8,500 children's lives a day around the world? And also, if it was real that they're rescuing all of these children, where's the evidence of it out there? And if these governments supposedly are going to do a Nasera Jacera thing, why are all these children dying? Why aren't they doing anything? So again, there is nothing to substantiate those claims about a Nasera and Jacera. And when you look at GPMS, there is everything to substantiate it, as well as the material proof that is there in the amount of consents, with the material tangible numbers rising every day, and those coming into alignment with this law. And the real truth is that GPMS is the only people's initiative upon the planet that is actually taking any lawful and unprecedented action. So when you hear one say, we are not doing anything, that is not the truth. If we were not doing anything, you would not see the numbers rising more and more as we go forward. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for speaking about the starvation and also the housing problem and everything. Because practically this is one of the reasons that Romanian people, they are on the street today, and they need to stop somehow all these laws that are coming against them and put them on starvation and practically to pass away. So a movement to see that they oppose to that has to be. But what I suggested all the time, it is also to share gpms.org message. So this is something else. And yes, we need to meet the people on the street, because we have right now united them, and we have in one place, and we have them with the mind towards the liberty. So they are not to the shopping quickly to do some shopping just to go to their home and everything. So right now their mind is completely towards the liberty, towards the freedom, and there we can speak with them in groups for gpms.org and give them flyers and everything. Then from there they can come also with question inside of the Zoom room, and from there we can start. So the true movement that I said a couple of probably, I do not remember, months ago, we need, like, when I'm saying a convoy, do not be with the mind that will be like the first Canadian convoy will be not. It's just for the people to be on the street to gather the other people attention, and practically they may come with other people when the people will see from those on the street that they share gpms.org message. So this is unite with under gpms.org and to start to understand GPMS. This is my message. I'm not using convoy, but I'm saying events or information or something like. So this also needs to happen. So in my opinion, but again, all the time I can see that the police or gendarmerie in Romania, they are playing their show. They are practically against the true freedom movement. And this somehow has to be bring to the point that the people had had enough, and the action is also towards gpms.org, where the people will be practically on the movement for the worldwide peace, and we do not need all the time military. Military is the only way. Right now, I have a question for the people that they fight so hard right now to put down the government and everything. If the military is the only way, why guys are on the street right now? So it's like if the military was the only way, so until now, for years, we had this government down for a long time, you know, by the military only. So why they need your support? So because it does not matter if you are military or not. It's about all of us that needs to unite in one direction. And right now, when you gather in the way to remove the government by force and everything, and practically to stop all that, but after that, what will happen? Would you put still another political party on top? And or you'll trust again the military, it's the only way? And I told also to the people, the nationalists, because we have a lot of nationalist people that they want for something to happen inside of their own area, and to start from there to be good. And I understand that, because practically when everything is coming against you, you need to stop somehow that, to have your time in order to gather in one direction and to gather people and to make all the explanation. So they are under the pressure. This is the reality. And sometimes the pressure is so high that practically they cannot do nothing else than come against this pressure, or somehow this has to stop. But until they are able to spread the correct word of gpms.org. But for this nationalist, I'm just letting them to know that the white hats, it's not on the way only to make the pyramid with artificial laws. They are on the way in 3-5 years to make a global government where practically this the 9% that they were all the time attached to the 1%, they will be on the top of you. So this is not freedom at all. And as you can see, you are still right now under the fear, under the aggression and everything on the street, on your money when you have no money. And practically it takes all of us to put this government down. Then, as Rick said, in the past with Serbia, this was not possible to happen, even that they choose the peaceful way, because they were the only one. And Romania people have no any kind of idea what happened in Serbia in 2019. So first of all, I started also yesterday. I had not the meeting that I wanted because the internet problem for 8 minutes. Probably I lost the people that they were coming to the 19, this is 7 p.m. Bucharest time, but I was after that. Then I joined somebody else. but these meetings will move forward for every Saturday in Romania. Then from there, we have to come with our guardians of gpms.org for Romania, that they will start to tell to the people the truth, because this is not possible on this way. This is going nowhere. And I said the math, it's just simple. When the 1% wanted to kill the 90%, practically they put also the 9% to kill for them and to be well paid. This is the 9%, then they said they will do not kill the 90%, but because also the 1% it's evil, and they understood that if they kill the 90%, the 1% will keep them in slavery forever, and this is gone. Then they started to inform the 90%, but they started to inform the 90% to have power for them to remove the 1%. But keeping you still on the pyramid system with artificial law, right now they want to be on the top, then practically they will be over the 90%. So how they replace this 1% with the 99? No. So they replace with themselves with the 9%. So it's like, good people, you are doing nothing. I'm not saying that the 9% will kill all the 90% again, but it's not about freedom, and it's not about your right to choose, and it's not about self-governance autonomy system. And anyway, you'll have no border in short time from now. So when you are saying my place where I'm born or where I'm living, this is my home, think again, because you right now you help for this downfall of government. You help those that they make all the time the affirmation that the military is the only way. And right now you, the people, are the only way to do that. So you are doing the work, and after that you come under the one that practically is giving away your right to choose, and your right to have the right to have the correct information, and the right to travel how you want, and practically it is all the right of information and decision inside. So this was also my message yesterday. And another one, it is for the people to start to come in gpms.org, as guardian gpms.org, and start to be involved minimum on the meeting that I was involved. But I'm saying minimum because you can be involved on many others, and start to meet these white hats face to face in a meeting and put them the question. Then you will start to understand their thinking. Because I said in the past, they are saying all the time, we had infiltration, we have infiltration. But the real infiltration is coming from their thinking, because they cannot have such infiltration if they think like gpms.org. Because gpms.org, when somebody else tried to infiltrate or something like, was not possible. And was not possible, where is the purity? On the thinking, on the way of what gpms.org it is. So any other lesser solution or less than gpms.org was not able to penetrate inside of gpms.org to capture the gpms.org in the way to move in another direction. So this was not possible, but with white hats all the time this is happening. The last one that I know, it was July 2023, when they said we still need 6 months right now. We still need 6 months right now to clean up our infiltration. I do understand that white hats has very good people inside, but they have all the time infiltration. And I'm just thinking, if they can cross gpms.org to understand what gpms.org is, then having another thinking, they will understand quickly, easier, when they have an infiltration or not, because their mind will change in another direction, and they will be able to perceive in time that something happens and is not clean inside. So this is huge, and I believe that this may come also from North America meetings, So they are invited on our North America meetings, and I let them to know that we can support also recording meetings or not recording. The most important is to change their way of thinking. Yes, Rick.
Oh, thank you, Beatrice. What I wish to say, in the US, when a child is born, right at this moment, there's perhaps about $100,000 bill handed to that child, that the child, because it's registered in the government, is responsible to pay uh, its share of that debt, the way the countries work. In Canada, I think it's around $60,000. When a child is born, its proportionate share of the debt is around 60,000. In Romania, I believe, just some tentative figures, looks like every child born here today owes about 20,000 US dollars in debt. The point and where I'm going with this is that it's the capitalistic system that is enslaving these children at birth, which is absolutely preposterous and, not acceptable. So, uh, but with the same thing, when you look at this, where a child is born, so the country's debt per capita is where you come up with these figures, because when the government registers this child into that nation, into that government, whatever it is, the child does have, they participate in owing the country's debt. And this is why it's very real that every child that is born, and I love picking on the US with this, is, not only do they have around $100,000 price tag, but also around the birth that they need to pay through insurance or through the hospital for a child being born, which I think is around 8,500. But I think when you go through all of the all of the expenses with having a child, I think it's more around $14,000 just to have a child that you have to pay. But nevertheless, using the $100,000 figure when a child is born in the US, there is that $100,000 debt that is placed on them. And, the reason I'm bringing this up is because all parents worldwide, like, what are you doing? How sick and how crazy is a system to enslave the child? And in the US, even before they're born, to stamp these bills on them that they're responsible for to some degree, or their parents. I mean, when you look at this, the child is innocent. The child did not do anything to incur these expenses, but this is the system that they're born into. So before they take their first breath, or when they take their first breath, there's $100,000 bill that they owe, because they become part of that country's economy, and they become part of being responsible, their part of that fictitious debt. So, where I'm going with it, this is the sense of it. This is the common sense of how nonsensical it is, and what the parents are doing by supporting a system, what they are subjugating their child to. Meaning that, let's say, if a child born today in the US owes about 100,000, maybe about 5 years ago, it was around 70,000 that they would owe. Wasn't so bad. But now you see it's 100,000. So as these children get 6 and 7 years old, if this capitalistic system remains, they are enslaved even more, enslaved to work to pay taxes to pay off a fictitious debt. And every parent worldwide needs to know what you are doing by enslaving your children into a capitalistic system and condemning them, if you will, of a life of enslavement. So it needs to be recognized by all parents worldwide. You know, you need to take the action to free these innocent children, if you will, and to free yourself. You know, enough is enough. This is common sense. How ridiculous is it? As well as the tax regimes and all of this. Yes.
Yeah. So with that, like, yeah, I get all that, and the system enslaves us, and we're born into it, and so, but we're still living amongst it day to day, and it's like, yeah, I get spread the word of GPMS and get the consents, and unanimously, eventually, it will overtake the current system, but until that time, the going along day to day, you have to participate in it to survive, so to speak, right? So I'd like to know, like, if like a Cole's Notes version on how to step out of the system, like last meeting, Todd was, I think, talking, and it was about like a few things to do is like stop paying taxes and stop doing a few things to step out of the system. But like, to do that, you have to do it in such a way that the you don't get arrested and thrown in jail and like by the system, and your life can become very bad. So it's like how to navigate in the short term, stepping out of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely a great question. You know, with this, what we suggest is everyone to retain your, keep your integrity intact and do what you need to do temporarily to survive and get through this until we get it all done. And, you know, also trying to get out of the system. We actually own all of the system, and what we are doing is overpowering it. And, you know, if one can do to whatever degree they wish individually to detach from the system, but as you're saying, Frank, you know, really there are very few that can fully detach from the system, and that they're in delicate situations. You know, you have a place that you live and you still have, you know, some bills. But with this, what we simply say is each one, you know, be responsible to yourself to do what you need to do to survive honestly. And, you know, really, we see many of these, and I know some of you here perhaps can attest to these freedom, free man on the land, which we know is very powerful. But if we take Edmonton, for example, with several years ago, how they murdered one that the police in Edmonton murdered this guy that was a freeman on the land, you know, and there was a big story with that in a setup. And because what you're saying is, yes, they become individually attacked. And again, this is why GPMS, we have to do just what you can to survive, and we have to get the majority of the people together, because they'll just ping you off. This is the darkness. They separate you and ping you off. And that's what they did in the past, but they can no longer do that the more that the people unite with with the absolute law. Because what they'll do is, see, with their court systems, this is why it's futile to go and really fight against it, because they will not look at it, or they'll pass it off, or they will not recognize it. And in their position where they're at, they know that they don't need to recognize it because the majority of the people doesn't back the resistance. So then they just brush it off and lock someone up or what have you. And it becomes a waste of time with this. This is again why GPMS has to unite all under the one universal law. And with us educated to a degree that we're not confronting the system. We don't need to prove ourselves to the system. We unite and we overpower the entire system on the planet. And this is what's occurring.
Yeah.
So,
I
so
get that.
just you do what you need to survive, but you need to do it honestly. And also there are some out there that needed to buck the system to set a precedent, if you will. But again, you will see how, at least in the past, it was ineffective. It's having more effect today, but still what you're seeing, if you take Canada, if you will, with the convoy and how they shut all of this down, but you try to get the truth in the court, how they will stall tactics, or the
Oh,
judge will not even look at it. So
yeah.
again, it shows you that over several years of a convoy, and everything is still the same. So common sense tells you again the only way is with the worldwide unity, and the power is with the people. And
Yeah.
just do what you need to do, brother, to survive.
Yeah. You can see that. You can see that, like, with the convoy and everything that happened. There's lots of court cases and this and that going on, and the National Citizens Inquiry produced a lot of evidence and stuff, and it's like, it's just time, I guess.
What I wish to say here is that, with this, with GPMS, we don't put all of the nuts and bolts, if you will, all of the intricate details on the website for more than one reason. Number one, we don't need to because we know all of the skill sets to do everything is within the majority voice to get to implementation. But also importantly, up in is still remnants of the darkness out there that watches what we do. And what we also have, can everyone hear me good?
Yes.
What we have out there is at least one other society trying to mimic what GPMS is doing. But the society was only able to mimic as far as what it could see on the website, but it could not even get that far because it could not fully see what GPMS is. So having said this, there is also the strategy, the overall monitoring and observing of how things are going, because we don't wish for one to be led astray. So we don't give all of the detail yet. Were you able to hear all of that, Beatrice?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So there is reasons for it, and we don't need to do it, but also we simply say the GPMS world, a 12-year-old child could function and distribute the funds worldwide. So it's simple, and we don't need to complicate it. This is love, but also at the same time, GPMS is no fool, if you will, meaning that if it does need to make a stand against anything, it does do it. But we are love and peace with this. Having said this, in India, what we have is we're accessing more of India, which is very good. Anyone watching, you'll see the consents coming in from India are increasing exponentially because more is being reached there. And with India, They have a population of about 1.5 billion. 85% of that population is in lack. So we have begun to tap into, let's say, about 1 billion there. In the Philippines, we are currently working on, to our knowledge, a database of about close to 1 million at least. But also with this earlier indications with the connections and all of the action and groundwork that was done in Philippines, it's perhaps got connections to 20, 30 million once we get everything aligned. So there are great numbers that are already aligned to come in with this. And of course, the bigger GPMS gets in the millions, in 2 millions, the bigger of a voice it has, but also where it is an energetic vehicle, it has a direct impact upon reality. Any of the dense areas with capitalism and what have you, it keeps getting denser and more harder until the ones see that they have to stand and make a choice. So the new world with GPMS is being created with the great hope and the great joy is uplifting the vibe for those in alignment with it. And for those that are not, this is a divine plan for everyone to know. It's not just being done from by a few humans, if you will. This is the divine plan from Prime Creator, which is put upon the planet, and it is ensured, it is guaranteed, it is secured. So having said this, we continue forward, and the divine strategy is to continue the voice. The numbers are substantial, and this is what we're doing. And very simply, worldwide, 85% of the worldwide population is in at least some form of lack, with many in poverty, meaning that and it's inevitable that you're going to get the majority vote. And as circumstances in the lower timeline get harder and harder for more, as I said, at the same time, once they realize they're able to see GPMS at least enough to come in alignment and to know what needs to be done. So uh, there is a lot occurring, and just to wrap it up, Lee has been busy with some ones over the last week. Also to say there's been some that we've been speaking to with that we have not brought to the public yet, that let's say has connections to some prominent influencers with celebrities, if you will. But not only that, we're taking it further, as I said, with the recent NGO and charity emails that we are putting out. We are actually putting and documenting the charities by putting them on the spot, if you will, where we have the all-inclusive plan to see if they wish to be part of it or if they wish to reject it. And this is all kept and documented, and they're also told in the email that is put out that we are keeping a record of any that rejects it. The same as what we have been doing with the freedom movements worldwide. And again, simply any leader, any genuine leader knows that a majority vote wins. And so there is no excuse and there is no justification of not agreeing with GPMS and seeing it. So we document this, and what we are finding is there are controlled opposition ones that are out there, because again, common sense tells anyone the majority rules, and and this is what it is. So there is no reasonable substantiation, even, especially by one that knows about sovereignty, if you will. And because these ones know about sovereignty, because they know more about the actual darkness that was out there that we are fighting. So it makes common sense and logic for these so-called genuine sovereign leaders as well to step forward and to share it with their people. Now, also on this, um,
Yeah, your internet is broken.
people, so again, is not a fool. It knows what it's doing, and this is why it overpowers everything upon the planet. It's why it's absolute. There is no guesswork with it, and so I'll keep it there. So with that, love, light, and gratitude to you all. And here in Romania, it's almost 2 a.m, so it's time to go. Thank you.
Thank you so much to be here, and have a great night, you and your wife. And see you soon. Thank you so much to everyone, and just please join us next week. Thank you and have a great day.